The Restitution in Practice convening brings together the team that's based at the University of the Western Cape, which is and has been really one of the core university-based academic spaces really thinking about restitution and providing space for thinking about restitution. And then Open Restitution Africa, where a lot of what we've been concerned with is how do you make information more accessible? And I think from both perspectives, an interest in what does it mean to do restitution in practice? How does all the thinking and information flow into actual work and actual practice?
What is the role of the state, of the national, and what is the role of the local community of the descendants? And right now, between Cameroon, Tanzania, South Africa, all cases are bedeviled by this question.
My name is Sophie Schasipen. I was lucky enough to get a mobility fellowship from the Austrian government, and I approached Siraj Rasool if he would supervise my work, which he agreed under the condition that I was going to become a formal student of the University of the Western Cape. What happened through that was that ultimately, for the last 10 years or so, I've been learning about these questions around restitution through Siraj Rasool, and through, yes, my own research and the different projects that we've partly been involved in together or separately, but always from the space of conversation here in Cape Town.
My name is Mamukwena Mahema. I work at the Mauritius Museum and Archives in Lesotho, and I work there as a curator.
My name is Convened. I'm from the University of Namibia, where I'm responsible for archaeology and heritage studies. Basically, we have a program that we call the Postgraduate Diploma in Heritage Studies, and that's one that I coordinate there at the University of Namibia. But I'm also involved with the Museums Association of Namibia and also on the national committee that is dealing with issues of restitution.
My name is Pumzile Nombuso Twala. I am a research associate at Open Restitution Africa. Being able to see the work that we've done as ORA really showing up in people's practices, and to be able to just get a sense of validation and affirmation that the work that we're doing is important and it's needed and it's valid.
By name, I'm called Nelson Yabiti. I work at the Uganda National Museum. I'm curator in charge of collections. The debate has been ongoing in Uganda, and I think it has gone everywhere. Even to communities, people can now talk. I'm so happy. Unlike before, even within the museum, that talk about restitution was something people didn't have any idea. But now our government has picked interest, civil society have picked interest. It's just because we don't have resources. Government is even interested if we have capacity to have a policy. That's something they will want to pick it up and see that we do. So to me, we can do something on restitution.
I would say the first and foremost thing that I really found as a positive impact on my work here was the extension of the network. Because I believe that we cannot really work in silos. So it was very important to network with people from other countries in Africa, but mostly also to learn what's happening in different countries. I think what was also very, very important was to observe the similarities in terms of the challenges that we have, and also the similarities in terms of the opportunities that we have going forward. I mean, I really can say I really learned a lot in terms of how people are grappling with the same issues that at first I thought perhaps they are peculiar to Namibia, but they seem to be African challenges when it comes to issues of restitution.
It also needed to be a convening of African scholars and African activists and African agencies who work with restitution.
A lesson that has become very clear for me in the past 2 days is that it's important for us to be able to have the evidence and the data to back up everything that we've been saying about restitution, to back up those gut feelings, that intuition that comes with the work that we do and the experiences that we have, being able to actually lean on the data and say, this is where the evidence is taking us. These are the trends, these are the patterns. And then to have that backed up and verified by people to say, no, this actually aligns with the experiences of so many people on the continent. Policy needs to be crafted in such a way that it works for the particular context. It can't be a one size fits all approach to it. There needs to be a targeted approach to it, very strategic, and having conversation and consultation and an ongoing reflexive process, I think is super important to emphasize.
When they call us and say they want to touch these objects, we go and open the store, they touch, they go away. But now here he comes and asks and don't find the object, and you tell them the objects are in Europe. So those are some of the push factors back from the community. The legacy I will leave is to ensure that things that will need to come back, whether there's money or not, it has to come.
We haven't solved the issue of sharing information. When we started Open Restitution Africa in 2020, it was very much as a response to this. People are developing knowledge through practice. People are learning very quickly on their feet. I think we are seeing many, many more conversations in Africa, just Africans talking to each other. But I think we need to find faster, quicker ways of ensuring that people aren't always reinventing the wheel.
What I like about my job is that I can find out that we have objects from people and we can make a plan to let them know that we have it and find out how they actually feel about it. Because it's no use we talk about repatriation, restitution, and then we are the perpetrators as well. So obviously reburying the ancestral remains is our highest priority, but it doesn't mean that we forget about the material culture and the objects that we have.
In Namibia, we have started working on a draft policy on repatriation and handling of human remains and objects in Namibian museums. So already one can see that what we've learned from here is the fact that we are only dealing with the returns. We haven't actually started talking about the restitution part of it. But the good thing about it is that this is still in a very draft form, and the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture in Namibia is already thinking of reconstituting the committee so that we can review the work that we have done so far. What I have observed and what I'm going to suggest, first of all, when we get back to Namibia, is that instead of just reconstituting the committee that was there, we need to add more actors. That's number one. We really need a wider consultation.
What is urgent for me is frameworks that enable us to move forward with clear understanding of what we deserve and what we need to do. The police shouldn't just be there for the sake of being there. They should talk to our environments. They should be relatable. They should be able to take into consideration how we do things, our ways of living.
They will come and talk to communities as if they are the second class. But actually, we say in the question, these are the denominators. They define each and everything. So, and they deserve to understand their government's motives behind the restitution and reparation. Does it rhyme with the motives of the specific community? And again, if it rhymes, can we stand with them representing these communities or representing the political motive?
I'm incredibly impressed by the richness of the presentations and the knowledge that's there and how much experience is in this room. And I would just really hope that we manage to create networks that are sustainable and that allow for each endeavor to flourish more and to strengthen an African-led network.
Africans are getting more confident about stating their demands, working on their own terms, not just following the impetus of whoever currently holds African heritage.
Eco are considered unethically collected. I need to channel my rage strategically and not be so angry and maybe do some work convincing people as opposed to saying, oh, we don't need to deal with you. Because as you said, we need multiple partners. So I think that's what I'm going to take away from this.
I was also anxious and wondered, what will I add to the discussion? There's always pressure to sound like you know it, that you're smart. That after entering this workshop the past 2 days, that has not been the case because of the openness of the discussions and the space and the interaction. I think that's so important. I think Tuda mentioned in the morning that it's so important that we're having these discussions here on the continent. That removes some of that pressure.
Looking back now, finding myself here where I am in a room with all these amazing personalities where you get to learn about other countries' experiences regarding matters of restitution and repatriation. And from the year 2022 up to now, learning slowly and adapting to the new terms and definitions of words like repatriation and restitution, you really think, hey man, it really does take a long time for us to start seeing results.
The time has come for us to think in all of our countries about the importance of policy and what is required to put policy into place.
I think for many people who are working in restitution, we know that it needs to move slowly. The thing is that it needs to move slowly on our terms because it needs to be driven from community repair, and that community repair works at the speed of trust. And so it's not about a mass outpouring from European museums. It's about repair and building. And I think that shift even from people working in restitution, who I think more confidently speak to a need to work at the pace of community building, is a sign that this thing is not ending.
Restitution will never be completed. It's an ongoing process, and it will grow many legs coming from different generations. We, as a current generation of scholars, curators, critics, historians, politicians, will do our part.